Hey! Yeah, this is going to be so much fun, I promise you. So, briefly about ourselves. So, Global Ledger is a Swiss company. We develop crypto AML compliance tools if you want to comply with MiCA and if you want to spot terrorists in your exposure. We create tools that allow you to save time and be faster because all these fraudsters now are very fast and crypto enable them to do that. So yeah, if you want to save time and be a little bit faster, just talk to us. There are a lot of global ledger people on this conference. Um, just in terms of the problem, terrorist financing is always like overlooked because it's a very, very small percentage of funds. Like the way you read this report is to the right, or yeah, to the right is where money coming from, and to the left where they going to. So you see, this is actually the WASP. Maybe some people from this WASP is here at the conference. This is their report from 2022, and down below in the report, you see there is a little bit of money like that called terrorist financing, right? It's like it's less than 0.1%. It's 200K entered and 240K exited on terrorist financing on this swap. It's less than 0.1% if you don't look at the IRN section out there. That doesn't look that much, right? But the budget for 9/11 was actually exactly that. So it's 400 to 500K, and this is basically what the official Commission of 9/11 investigation concluded. So in order to do an event like 9/11, you don't need that much. So what I don't want you to have is any sort of event like this associated with your WASP because you overlooked that 0.1%. So in order to do that, the scope for today, right? So we would look at the difference in counter-terrorist financing procedures in a bank and in a WASP, review typical pardons. We'll see what's the role of DeFi, and we'll think what we can improve in our CTF procedures to actually be better in that. The data set in question, it's terrorist organization, paramilitary groups, associated media. Why media? Because that's usually the organizations that do fundraising for these terrorist organizations. I would refer to all of them as tangos. That's just a shorter word to refer to them all. The data sources that we usually use when we trace these sort of organizations, the public sources are sanction lists, social networks, messengers, video content, darknet, just general media. But when we are in a task force groups with law enforcement or government, that opens a lot more sources like prisoners of war or intercepted communications, which gives us a little bit more interesting results. So every report you would see would be prepared, like any of our client can automatically prepare that report of exposure for any entity. That's part of our KYB, which is Know Your Business toolset, which can tell you where money coming and where they're going for any entity, any coin, any time frame. And you can actually also know what type of entities it is, like what's their primary operational regions, you know, who are their founders, what banks and payment systems they're using, and things like that. So let's start from that. What's the difference between a contest financing procedures in a bank and a virtual asset exchange? So the bank generally, like if that's across multiple documents out there, right? The banking system, the individual bank tries to prevent the terrorist organizations from using the banking system as a whole, where WASP would be preventing, you know, just their own WASP. And banks' main sources of data is the KYC data, where WASP may encounter an anonymous wallet and they need to use a KYT or KYB. And the biggest problem is the bank has limited information and visibility, where for the WASP, it's anonymity, it's unhosted wallets, is the complexity of the schemes. The visibility one hop, what I mean, is literally when one guy sends money to another bank, that's you only see one transaction. You only see, what is the bank that the money coming from, what is the business or entity or person that is sending money, where we send, who's the receiver. Where in crypto exchange, it's a little bit more complicated. So you have your own wallets, right? But then money may come, and this first wallet may be an unhosted wallet. But then you realize that, okay, like 2 steps back, there is a WASP. And then maybe there's this another source that is a Tango. So, and you have to monitor that. Actually, yesterday that wallet might not be associated with a Tango. Yesterday that might be a normal wallet, but today it's in a sanction list, or today they've posted a social media post where they collect donations on this wallet, or today it just become public and the investigations concluded that. So you have to monitor multiple hubs back, what's happening with this money, what's happening with the attribution of these wallets. And also for the outgoing side, when you're given a wallet to do a withdrawal at a crypto exchange, you usually get an unhosted, like you get the new wallet. Like there's no information in it, it's never been used, it's not even in the blockchain. You don't know anything about that. And then this new wallet starts sending money somewhere, and you have to understand that, maybe after some time, these money can be donated to, I don't know, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, whatever terrorist organization we can name. And maybe even the wallet you actually send money from your exchange directly may become a wallet associated with a Tango. So what you really need to do is you need to trace back the real source. You need to always monitor that attribution in order to understand, like in real time, what is happening with all these wallets attribution in the world. And then you also need to trace forward, and you need to monitor the movement of these funds. And this is a much more complex work compared to a bank that I was showing you before. Like this requires a lot more resources from a WASP, and it costs fortune usually. So, and actually in all this, you have to be fast and you have to be real time, because if you receive that information that this wallet is Tango after a month, after everyone is knowing, then there might be already your name in the investigation in a law enforcement table. The good news is, unlike cybercrime, like hackers or darknet, Tangos are not using very complex schemes. Let me show you one. So there's a 5,000 euro withdrawal to a Tango wallet. So that was a donation to a well-known terrorist organization. So what this terrorist organization did, they sent money to an unhosted wallet and almost immediately cashed it out in a small portion. They cashed it out in another WASP. It worked, so they thought like, okay, we can get away with that. So they made a 3,000 transaction to the same WASP, even skipping the unhosted wallet stage. And that didn't work, so they got blocked out there. So they said, okay, like we're learning. So they used another unhosted wallet, and they dissipated funds into small portions, and they used 6 accounts at the WASP-C. That's actually not a very complex scheme. One of the takeaways from that is that this 1,000 euro threshold that we have is something that is known to these guys, and they kind of use it, right? So they understand it. The centralized exchange is still like 88% of all of the Tango transactions. Like, so they cash out for centralized exchanges. They receive donations from it. But the DeFi, like you see, the DEX is the top 3. This is actually from 2024. So we see in a lot of situations, money have been sent through DeFi as a donation. But that's not because like DeFi users very like Tangos. It's because this is actually what the host was saying. This is not a guideline. This is warning. Because what Tango had, like they would think, okay, we have funds that may be publicly marked as risky. So we wouldn't deposit it to WASP because we get blocked. We can use mixing, but then we get questions, and there are not a lot of mixing-friendly WASPs. So what they use is they send money to DeFi, and then they use mixing, and then they use another DeFi, and then they deposit to WASP. So the WASP would think that the money is just coming from DeFi and not even from something like mixing. So this way, you go from a completely red flag to a sort of a yellow flag, and maybe not to draw a lot of attention. So not a guideline for sure. It actually works both ways for them. So if you want to donate, that you want your WASP not to freak out and not to block all your funds. So if you want to donate, you would also want to use some DeFi or something in order to deposit to a Tango wallet. You can see it in a Tornado Cash example, right? So the biggest counterbodies for Tornado Cash, some of the hackers, you see the cybercrime hack, exploit, some of them they may directly or indirectly, like in a few hops, send money directly to Tornado Cash. That's a report from Q3 last year. But the biggest counterparties are still DEX. These are actually primary 2 or 3 DEX entities behind that. And the most popular ones, you can still see it's like a cross-chain protocol, bridge, and things like that. And it's actually the same this year. I mean, you see a lot of unhosted wallets. It's just because it was generated like yesterday. So these money just not spent or not sent to the DEX, but you see like it's DeFi, it's bridge, it's cross-chain, it's DEX, it's RUP token. So that's how the professional cybercrime guys are doing it. So to wrap it up a little bit, right? So we looked at the CTF procedures in a bank and in a VASP. In a VASP, it's very complex. It requires a lot of manpower to really understand what kind of money you receive. And you have to monitor the attribution and the exposure constantly in real time. And that may cost you a fortune, but with us may cost you a little bit less and a little bit less of your time. And we review the typical partners in terrorist financing. They are not very sophisticated right now, but since some of the tangos, they really even introduce like their cybercrime divisions, the complexity may grow for you guys. And what we can improve is that you need a fast real-time software that requires lower effort from you, because you probably wouldn't be able to manage a lot of these requests. You probably shouldn't rely on a €1,000 threshold. It's public for anyone, and in crypto, it is very easy to bypass it. And you probably should pay a little bit more attention to DEX and mixing sandwich, because something can be behind it. I mean, actually, mixing protocols are fairly traceable, so you can know what is behind it. If you guys have any questions or you want to connect, just use these QR codes.
Fantastic. My dear friends, give it up for Lex Fisun. That was great.